Hey everybody, this is Sam. This is my vlog for Thursday, uh, May 14th. And this is my vlog for yesterday and today, basically. Yesterday went good, at least in the morning. Hung out, did blog stuff, wrote back and forth with Robert, stuff like that. Had lunch. In the afternoon, I was laying down for my afternoon nap because I didn't have a morning nap. And one of the CNAs knocked on my door. He's an okay CNA. He's not my favorite, and he's edging towards the category of CNAs that can't do anything unless they're prompted 10 million times. He was like, "You have to go down to the medical office." I was like, "Why?" Because I hadn't heard of any of this. He came back, he's like, "You need to see the medical doctor." I was like, "Oh my God." Because how it works here with the medical doctors is you don't know when you're going to see them until, like, at the very most, like, the night before. Or, like, the morning you have to see them. Or, like me, like, 2 minutes before you have to go downstairs. They have a list that they post, like, the night before, and it's up by the nurse's station. And I guess they rely on people to just look at that list. And sometimes the nurse will tell you, or the CNAs will tell you. I mean, usually they have been good about telling me and everything else like that, but it's still, I mean, you could just, oh, you have the doctor, you learn at like 7 at night, you have the doctor the next day, so, it's really, really stupid. I guess they just think that we have nothing better to do than sit to see the doctor. I mean, the other thing that's stupid about it is you have to see the medical doctor every month. It's like some, policy thing. And so, even if you don't need to see the doctor, you have to drop your plans and see this doctor. And, so, I mean, that's crazy. And then, like I said, any plans you have for the next day, you have to cancel them because the other thing is you don't know when the doctor is coming in. They could come in at, 10 in the morning. Sometimes you have an idea, like, that, like, my psychiatrist and Jess's psychiatrist that are the same, come usually, like, on Mondays, it's usually, like, 7, she starts, and then she's done by, like, 9 or something. Some of the doctors come in the afternoon. I mean, some of them there's like no pattern because they don't officially like confirm it until like they're on their way to here, which is really weird. So like they could schedule it and then like not come, and sometimes that's happened. And a lot of times like they don't even call the scheduling woman to tell them, or like they do call them in the morning. So like even if you clear your schedule for that next day and you're sitting there, you could hear them come on the speaker and be like, Dr. BK Shaw will not be coming in today. He'll be coming in next week. And it's like that. All that could happen, and you just have to sit and wait all day, which is ridiculous. Anyway, so this appointment was important to me because, like I think I might have told you in my video, I've been having problems. I haven't got my period since the end of February, which is really unusual for me. And I wasn't sure what it was, and, I was kind of freaking out because my mom was freaking out because she's like, I don't know what's happening. Like, she just, all she knows is, like, it's natural to have your period, and if you don't, like, something's wrong, and, no, I'm not pregnant, I never had sex in my life. So, I was worried about it, and Edith, who's awesome, is my caseworker. She went and talked with Karen, the director of nursing, who's very smart. She's a psychiatric nurse as well as an RN. And I think the only psychiatric nurse we have here, which is kind of dumb. And, they scheduled an appointment for the OBGYN, or, put my name to be scheduled with the person that schedules appointments and transportation. So they figure we'll know the date, like, next week or something. At least that's done a little bit more in advance. Although I've heard of some people that are like, oh, I just find out about appointments I need to go to, out of the building, and, the night before. But I've had the experience that at least, a reasonable time of advance if you're going to an appointment outside the building. But anyway, so they're scheduling that, and then, I was going over thoughts with my friends, like I have had some weight gain that's been, like, kind of outside my realm of weight for me. Well, I've had weight gain recently. All my life I've been like 100, like 100 pounds, like 100 to like, like 102 to like 108, and now I'm like 129 pounds. But a lot of that weight gain occurred in March, and it was like 5 pounds. And I started buspar, and in February, and I started. I had my lamyctol dose raised in February. And so I was wondering if it was that, and people were like, well, it could be cysts, it could be this and that, and I'm like, well, we're not going to know until I see the gynecologist, and so we were talking about it, and the last time I saw the doctor, this is what this guy is stupid. I saw the doctor last time, and I told him, I said, I haven't got, and this was like, I don't know, a month ago or something. It must have been last month sometime, because this is the appointment for this month. So I told him, I said, I haven't got my period since this time, and this and that. And he goes, oh, well, we need to do pregnancy test. I said, no, we don't. I said, I have never had sex in my life. I'm not pregnant. And he mentioned this thing like 3 times, that we need to do this test. And I was like, no, we don't. And he didn't mention anything about any other causes for it. He was like, oh, well, you should see the OBGYN. I was like, yeah, I probably should. But he didn't refer me. He didn't do anything on it. He just kind of let it go. And meanwhile, I was very worried about it, especially when I told my mom, and she was worried about it. And, because it isn't natural, and I'm most worried about, like, all of a sudden getting it really bad and having, like, a lot of cramps and stuff and just bleeding really heavily. So that's the only thing that I was really worried about, or that it was like harmful to my body in some way to not get your period or whatever was going on. So I have been thinking about this and like looking this stuff up and stuff. So I finally see him yesterday, and first of all, so like we caught my PRC, we caught Edith like in the elevator. We were so lucky to catch her on the way down because I had no idea about this appointment, like I said, and so we caught her, and we went in, and it took us a while, of course, to get in because they called me way too early when there was 10 million people in the office and not even any seats, and we sat in their office and everything else like that. And I was really thrown off the wall because I really need to know about appointments and stuff like that in some advance because I want my PRC to go with me. I want her there to advocate, because sometimes these doctors can be stupid like mine was. So we get in there, and he's like, oh, your blood work looks so good. I'm like, what blood work? He was looking at some page from January when I had blood work. First of all, the last time I had blood work was March when I went to the crisis unit. But for whatever reason, I'm like, well, in any case, I think we need to do blood work again because I still haven't gotten my period. He's like, huh? I'm like, and then I told him, and he was like, he remembered. And again, he was like, oh, we need to do the pregnancy test. I was like, no, you don't need to do the pregnancy test. And so he mentioned this pregnancy test like 3 times in the course of all this. But he did say that he all of a sudden started mentioning this prolactin. I said, could it be from my meds? And he was like saying something about prolactin. I'm like, I don't take prolactin. I had no idea what he was talking about. And then eventually I figured out that, Edith said he was talking about this hormone, this prolactin, that I guess is the hormone that like stops your period. I guess like when it's the end of your period, it like sends the message to like stop your period or like whatever happens. So I guess he said that the psych meds like raise the level of that so people like don't get their period, and I guess it can cause like enlarged breasts and like breast milk. And he was asking me all that crap about was my breasts enlarged and did I have breast milk, and I was getting so mad at him because I was thinking, oh, he's back to thinking I'm pregnant again or whatever. And it was nuts, and I was just getting so upset because the whole issue is upsetting. It causes so much anxiety because, it's not normal for me. Like I said, the weight gain or the this whole period thing, obviously, I've never heard of it. I never heard of that hormone, but the woman that does the scheduling and the charts and stuff, I don't know her medical background, but she's like, there are a lot of people here that have this issue with this prolactin gets activated too high and they don't have their periods. And, like, Edith was like, yay, you'll be period free. And I was like, yeah, like, I don't mind. I would, if I don't have to have a period, like, I'm happy about that. As long as it's not going to harm my body or cause any problems with my period, in the long run, I'm fine. I don't want to switch meds because of this or, like, go off my med. So anyway, we were talking about it, and he was like, well, I'll do blood work for your prolactin level, and I said, can you check my thyroid too, because I've heard that can cause it. And so I told him basically what to do, and like whatever, it was just dumb. So last night they did the urine sample for the pregnancy test. He was like, oh, we have to do the pregnancy test because it's like protocol. If someone from the state looks at your chart and sees this was the problem and sees we didn't do a pregnancy test, it would be really bad. And it's like, yeah, that's fine, but like, why do you need to keep talking about it? We could be talking about this other stuff. So like, I don't know, he was just the most dumb guy ever. I mean, we don't have a lot of choices at all for doctors. I mean, we just have to go see these doctors that come in, and they're all guys. And I've never had a male doctor. I've always had female doctors, and I had a wonderful nurse practitioner at Trilogy when I went there for services, and their clinic is amazing. And unfortunately, when I moved here, their policy is, they have certain requirements of these doctors technically being quote unquote on call 24/7, which I doubt they are. I mean, I've heard of people taking a long time to get, a hold of the doctor for the nurses to get them something. So it's just crazy. But anyway, I switched doctors the first time because mine was never in, and had this nurse practitioner that was totally stupid, and she only came once, and it was just nuts. I felt like I didn't have a doctor, and that's not good. So we got out of there, and I was totally anxious and upset. I had upset stomach. I had, I went upstairs and took an Ativan, and I took something for my stomach, and it took all night practically for me to settle down. So, they screwed it all up, and I went up there, and I asked the day nurse, which is, they should tell you they usually tell you in the morning, if you have a doctor's appointment, and you, like Miss Billy does it, she's like the best CNA we have here. And I told the day nurse, I was like, I said, I wish you had told me I had a doctor's appointment today. She was like, oh, I wish a lot of things, and she just walked off, which is like a typical reaction for her. And if you argue with her, she gets even more like mad. Like, she's a good nurse, but she's really old and like set in her ways, and really doesn't have a lot of patience for arguing with people. So, Edith was like, it's not worth your time. So like, I was like, okay. And then, like, obviously the guy that took me downstairs didn't tell me till, like, the minute I had to go down there. And I hadn't seen Miss Billy, like I said, my favorite one, all that day. So I wrote Jonathan, and I wrote Edith, and I wrote a long email about it because I was like, this cannot happen again because it's just not right. I need to know, I'm blind, I can't see this list, and everything else like that. So I talked to the nurse at night and the night CNAs, and I was like, you know what? I said, I had no idea I had a doctor's appointment. Did you know? And he's like, oh, I don't know, and he was like, well, there was the list up, and there is the list there. And I was like, well, I can't read the list. And of course he dares to say, well, Jess could have read the list. And it's like, no, just because she's like my roommate and we're best friends and she helps me with stuff doesn't mean that like everything is her responsibility at all. In fact, like nothing is her responsibility. She's just doing it because she likes me and she wants to make it easier for me because she knows how much crap goes on around here. But, it should be staff's responsibility to do like the stuff she helps me with. So, and she was saying, well, I couldn't see the list because there was a huge crowd of people around that area where the list was. And like I said, it should have been them to say something, and they didn't. And I said, well, and they're like, well, did you make it there? I'm like, yeah. They're like, oh, well, you should just let it go and don't even worry about it. I was like, you know what? No, because the point is I needed a PRC to come with me, and especially Edith. I needed to let her know this was going on. If she couldn't be there, she would have gotten someone else to be there, because I don't want to go in by myself and talk to this doctor, because sometimes you can't advocate for yourself on the doctor, or he needs to hear the same thing from like another staff person, because they're just dumb. And they need to know, and if they're there to hear what's going on at the doctor, they can help you, better plan for the next step because they heard it, firsthand. And, the PRCs don't do it unless you ask them, which I think the PRCs should know, they should get this list as soon as it comes out, which I don't understand why it takes like up to the last minute to come out. But they should get this list and know when their clients are going to be seeing the doctor that week. And then they should try to go down with their clients and like see the doctor if it's possible, but they don't. And it's like, Edith was saying, oh, well, my residents don't see the doctor every month. She's like, they probably just opt out of it, which you can be like, I don't want to see the doctor, but they really frown on that. And I've done that a couple of times because I had something to do and I needed to just leave. And they like made a huge deal out of it. They were like, oh, you skipped your doctor's appointment. Like, everything is supposed to be like priority over the doctor's appointment. It's like, how can it be priority? You don't tell me till like the last minute. So anyway, it's just nuts. So, I mean, they should know when they're client. But anyway, so I was talking about it, and they're like, oh, no, don't worry about it. Like, it's no big deal. Like, just let it go. Which those are the trigger words for my PTSD. Just let it go. Don't worry about it. Don't, whatever, it's finished, don't let that bother you, because that's all I heard from my family all my life. So I hear that and I just start crying. But, I didn't, before I would have gone into a complete meltdown and like hit someone. I was crying, but I was also standing up for myself. I was like, you know what? I can't let it go. I can't let it go because I had a medical issue and I needed someone there with me. And, I need to know this stuff in advance or else it, sets up my anxiety. And, these are all the reasons why I can't let it go. And I can't let it go because I said to them, I just can't let go of something. I said, you can't unfeel something you're feeling. And with the CNA is like, well, I think you can. I was like, no, trust me. So, I stood up for that and I sent the email to, like I said, the people I needed to send it to. I didn't, if the director of nursing had an email, I would have sent it to her. But, it doesn't happen that much. But it's been an issue of, like, not knowing when your appointment is. And then, like I said, the times that I've been out of the building, one of them was I didn't even know I had the appointment. And then that night they were acting like, oh, you missed your appointment. It's like I didn't even know I had an appointment. And to say that Jess needs to read the list is like the most dumbest thing ever, That is not her responsibility at all. I mean, she often will check the list, and I guess she saw his name on it last night, but it was chaotic. Sometimes it's so chaotic around there during, med lines and everything else like that, you can't even hardly talk to the nurse. Never mind go look up at some list. So, I don't know. It's a really flawed system. But the worst part for me is, like I said, not knowing and having the disadvantage of, I'm blind. I can't go look at the list or I can't, whatever. It's just completely nuts. So I had to deal with that, yesterday. And then last night they did the urine. And then I have to give it to them. At least the orders went through right away. They did the urine sample for my pregnancy test. Big deal. And then today they did the blood draw bright and early. The labs come at like 4 a.m, the lab technician, which I don't understand why. Somebody said it was because they go to all these different facilities and they have to start early. I don't know. Edith tried to like advocate for them not to do that. She's like, I will not have my residents woken up at that hour. Plus she hates blood tests. And like, I was laughing at her and like everyone was laughing at her because like of course she didn't mean it, but like she was just like throwing a fit over it. But, it is wicked early. I mean, God. But anyway, so I got that taken care of, and so just waiting for the results. In the meantime, I looked up the prolactin thing, and it does affect, psych meds do affect it, especially antipsychotics, but I saw this thing that said buspar affects it, which is what I'm taking, which is what I figured. And saw this thing that said, lamyctol might affect it. Very small chance, but, you can always end up in that percent. I mean, I guess it's so small on, like, lamyctol that it wasn't even put in the side effects. And I saw something on on a message board saying that buspar affected it. And they said that there's some fake version of, like, a hormone that's produced, like, naturally that you can take to, like, bring the prolactin level back down. But it's like, I don't want to be taking hormones. Like, that's going to mess up my body even more, probably. And I don't need my period. I'm not, like, Edith was teasing me. She was like, you're going to have a baby? I was like, no. I'm like, I don't need my period. It's a big pain in the butt. And if there's no long-term, or any kind of harm that's going to come to my body or whatever out of not having it or this hormone thing being up, I'm fine with not having my period. I just need to make sure that I'm going to be okay. I'm not going to go off that med because they're doing good for me, the buspar, and I don't want to take that hormone. So, I just need to get it checked over that that's the issue, that there's nothing else wrong, and, that's fine. But this doctor really gave me the runaround, and, I don't appreciate it. So, anyway, I've just been hanging out today, helping Robert with stuff, doing blog posts, and generally keeping myself occupied. So that was my day yesterday and today. If anyone's had any experience with the prolactin levels and psych meds, in particular buspar or lamyctol, I also take Effexor, but I've been on that for like a year, so that shouldn't be any problem. I also take Ativan, but I've been on that for like a year. So basically the buspar or the lamyctol, if you've had any problems with that, I'd love to hear about it. And if you've had like any experience of being in a facility with stupid doctors, I'd love to hear about it so we can all like complain about how bad it is. Okay, talk to you later. Bye!
Web stop.